Welcome, listeners. Tonight we have an interview with Dr. Semir Osmanagich. Many of you know him as the man who discovered the Bosnian pyramids, but of course we like to know much more about him. So, Mr. Semir, can you please introduce yourself?
Good evening. Of course. So my name is Dr. Semir Osmanagich, and I'm an anthropology professor at the American University in Bosnia. My PhD is in Mayan studies. I discovered the Bosnian pyramids in the spring of 2005. I've authored 13 books about the ancient civilizations and about the pyramids in particular. And I've been investigating pyramids all over the world, from Peru, Bolivia, to China, the island of Mauritius, Canary Islands, Egypt, Bosnia, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Belize, Honduras, US, and so on. I have concluded that pyramids are not a phenomenon which is linked to the countries like Egypt and Mexico, but they were the worldwide phenomena. They were built on all 6 continents. The world of the past was the world of pyramids. And it seems that everything they taught us about the pyramids and the ancient civilizations were wrong. We did have very advanced societies in the distant past, and that's what I've been investigating in the last 2.5 or 3 decades.
That really sounds like an exciting life, Dr. Osmanagich. Let's take it a little back. Where does this fascination for pyramids come from? How did it all start?
Well, in my early 20s, while I was going to the University of Sarajevo studying the economics, political sciences, and sociology at the same time, I was reading a lot. And the more you read, the more you realize that there are so many gray areas in human history. Yes. When I started to travel extensively, and I realized that what they wrote there was wrong. For example, you go to Machu Picchu, every textbook, every history book, every encyclopedia, every source on internet today claim the very same thing. It was built as the royal retreat for the Incas. Well, they were wrong. You can see the traces of 4 distinctive civilizations. The first one from the deep past was the most superior, moving 250-ton blocks. The second one, they were dealing with the tens of tons blocks. The third one, also very advanced, and then thousands of years passed and the Incas came and they used the little stones, they made the separations between the huge walls and make rooms for their royals. In other words, they were telling us that there is a linear progression in human. Instead, we don't see evolution, but rather opposite. The first civilizations were much more advanced than those who followed. So the places like that, not only Machu Picchu in Peru, but also Baalbek in eastern Lebanon, where you can find a stone block of 1,250 tons, or Yonaguni monuments on the bottom of the Pacific floor, or the first pyramids in Egypt and Mexico that are the most superior, and the same case in China, are telling us that humanity does not have a linear development, but we simply live in the last cycle of humanity. Before this cycle, there was another one, which was interrupted by the global catastrophe. Before that one was another one, and so on and so forth. And this is what we need to present to the public today. People need to realize that there was so much to learn from the ancient civilizations, not only in physical, material world and material things, but also spiritual. Obviously, they were much more balanced when it comes to spirituality and material reality.
You state in your book, The World of the Mayas, that you believe that the Maya to be Atlanteans who came from the Pleiades. Is that correct?
Well, I did have a couple of authors from the past, and I did give some excerpts in my book. But this is my opinion. I think the Mayan civilization is much older than what it is officially claimed.
Yes.
They are, taking only 3,000 years in the past for the Mayan civilization, and most of the sources call the Mayan Neolithic culture, Stone Age culture. Again, that's very wrong, because the Mayan had very extensive and vast astronomical knowledge and also mathematical geometrical construction. For example, one of their 21 calendars was dealing with so-called long count, which was telling us that there is a cycle that our solar system makes in the galaxy, Hunab-Ku, or the Milky Way. Hunab-Ku, that's how they called it, and that its circle lasts 25,920 years. And they knew that 4,000 years ago. It can be found in their first codexes, in their first books. But then we really should go back in the past, because in Belize, in tiny Mesoamerican countries, we are finding traces of Mayan settlements 7,500 years in the past. Officially, the first civilization in Mesoamerica were Olmecs 3,000 years ago. But now the new research on Mayans are taking about 7,000, 8,000 years. And now we have only a couple of 3,000 years missing to get the connection with the previous cycle. And we do know that in the middle of the Atlantic was so-called the Red Land, how the Toltecs were calling it. They were saying that they did originate from the Red Land, in the Far East. East from Mexico was the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So, yeah, there is a possibility that there was a connection of the Mayan civilization with the civilization before ours, which many people called Atlanteans.
And how did you come to the Pleiades?
Now, the Pleiades, that was really not my idea. In one of the books, they did mention the Pleiades. Now, the people who put the stuff on Wikipedia and they try to discredit you, I would say, they put everything in your mouth. However, there is a lot of literature out there talking about different civilizations coming from the outer space. Personally, I lean to the very scientific methods. I think that almost everything can be proved scientifically. And that's the reason why in our project in Bosnia, we always have several independent scientific teams. And once you have 2, 3, 4 confirmation, then you can say, yes, this is independently verified, so it is proven. When it comes to the different sources, to people who channel information, even in that spiritual field, I think that we should find a way how to verify those information. Because right now people, they claim they channel information either from different beings, either from different ETs, or, from different realms. Now, one of the things that a lot of people deem it's possible is so-called Akashic records, library in Akashic records. So if we do have a library in spiritual realm, I was thinking, well, let me talk to 6 Akashic record readers and let me compare their statements. And I will do an experiment with them applying scientific protocols. So I did talk to people who claim that they can access the information in Akasha, and according to them, in the Akashic records should bring you all the information about the planet, about the past, about the future. And so what I did, I talked to them, I had a presentation for them with the photos of different archaeological places like Machu Picchu or Egyptian pyramids, Chinese pyramids, pyramids in Mauritius, Canary Islands, Sicily, Bosnia, and so on and so forth. And I was asking them very simple, basic questions. Who, when, how, and why? Now, I was getting answers from them at 6 different times. They didn't know for each other. They did not know what I was going to ask them, so they could not prepare and things like that. So I wrote a book about this experiment. The book is called The Ancient History Behind the Veil. And I think it's interesting thing that I was not getting the same answers. And theoretically, if they are getting the information from the same source, from the books, from some type of encyclopedia in spiritual realm, you should get the same answer. However, it did not go that way. I was getting different answers, but if you take them together, they were, it seems so, the part of the same big picture. So I think there is a way to verify information from this realm too.
Yes. Let's get to the Bosnian pyramids. You say you really want to work with evidence. What was the first evidence you found in Bosnia to which showed you that it really are pyramids?
In April of 2005, I first came to the central Bosnian town of Visoko, which is approximately 30 kilometers northwest from the capital city of Sarajevo. The reason for my visit was a visit to the local museum, but when I saw the hill in the shape of the pyramid, I knew that something very intriguing is going on there. I went to the top, I was looking at the sides, and then I could notice that we do have 4 sides. We have triangular faces, we have obvious corners, and we have the same slope from the bottom to the top. And those 4 sides meet in apex. So the geometry was there. Now, that first pyramid, which I later named the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, obviously, even though covered by soil and vegetation, it's such a perfect geometry that I said, okay, let me see if those 4 sides match the cardinal points, because that's how the pyramids were built in China, Egypt, Peru, or Cahokia in the US. And the compass showed me that one side perfectly matched north, the other one east, the third one west, and so on. So when you have perfect geometry and a perfect orientation, the Mother Nature does not do that. That's what the intelligent hands do. So I immediately knew that under the layer of soil and vegetation we have a huge artificial structure. People usually think about the pyramids and think about the Egyptian pyramids in Giza. Now they are in different climate. They are in desert. They are visible. But most of the pyramids, Jolanda, in China, in Bosnia, in Mexico, in Guatemala, they've been covered by soil for thousands of years. I mean, you have almost 100,000 Mayan pyramids, and they are all in jungles. I mean, 98% have not been cleared and uncovered yet. So with that experience, for last 2.5 decades, when I came to Bosnia, there was no doubt for me. Geometry and orientation told me everything. And then after that, in 2006, when we established the non-profit foundation, which we named the Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation, then a huge archaeological and scientific project took off.
You discovered 5 pyramids, and I do agree with you. When you explore the Bosnian landscape around Visoko, you can clearly see the structures. But even in the rest of Bosnia, we came across some structures that look like pyramids as well. Do you share my opinion that we might even find more pyramids in time?
Well, I think that even in the Visoko Valley, besides those 5 pyramids, the sun, the moon, the dragon, earth, and the love, I think there are possibility for a few more. Now, when you talk about very old age, then the probability of big floods, big tectonic movement was high, which means that probably it destroyed partially or completely some other structures. Now we can see the remnants of 5 of them. But also in other parts of Bosnia, we can see regular geometry in different parts, in the middle of Bosnia, northeastern, northwestern. So it's amazing what's been built in the past or what's been shaped in the past. Obviously, we did have civilizations who were able to manipulate with the huge quantities of construction materials, or who were able to adjust or to accommodate the landscape to their needs.
Dr. Osmanagich, I've heard that a lot of the megalithic structures in Bosnia, in places like Stolac, resemble the ones in Machu Picchu that strong, that there are so many similarities. Is it possible that both Peru and the eastern Adriatic coast are both remains that drifted off from, let's say, Atlantis or Lemuria?
What I think is possible when having such common elements is that either we had the communication between the continents, or we had one super civilization or several super civilizations in the past. And you are right, near the town of Stolac there is a megalithic site called the Daurson, and you can see a huge megalithic blocks, tons, some of them tens in tons in mass, and they perfectly fit each other. There is no binding material between them, and some of the blocks have 5, 6 or 8 corners. When you go to Peru, the cities in their Urubamba Valley, anywhere from Cusco to Machu Picchu, Ollantaytambo, I mean, you have the same megalithic walls that perfectly fit each other. They are tens of tons in weight, and you ask yourself, hey, how come we have such big similarities? You go to Easter Island, which is 4,000 kilometers away. You get the same thing. You get the walls, which are basically the same like those at Machu Picchu or Cusco. And then you go to Egypt, next to the Giza pyramids or Saqqara pyramids. You see the same walls. Now, obviously, the history was much more exciting than what the mainstream scientists are trying to present us. They are telling us that until 4, 5, 6,000 years back, we were all primitive, and in most cases on the planet, the humans were living in caves. Well, they're wrong.
You have said before that you think that the pyramids are built about 12,000 years ago. Others say that it is possible that it is impossible that they are 12,000 years old because Europe was then on a glacial top. In other words, it was way too cold to live in the area or build anything. What is your current belief? How old are these structures?
Yeah. From the very beginning, we were using scientific information coming from the for example, institutes for pedology, as the Bosnian State Institute. What they did, they took samples from the Sun and the Moon pyramid. And the pedology is the science that investigates the origin of the soil. And they concluded in their scientific report at the beginning of 2006 that the soil that covers the pyramids of the Sun and the Moon in Bosnia is between 12 and 15,000 years old. So if the soil is 12,000 plus years old, it means that the structures are even older than that. So from 2006, when I would mention the age, I would always use this information, and I would say the pyramids in Bosnia are most probably 12,000 plus years old. And then in June of 2012, which is this year, our volunteers of the first shift of our international summer camp for volunteers, they were extending one of the sections on the Sun Pyramid, and they were removing the soil and the clay from the concrete blocks. Well, below the layers of soil and on the top of the concrete block, they found a piece of organic material. Now, that material was the fossilized leaf. So obviously in the distant past, when the structure was there, the wind was blowing and brought this piece of leaf. And we sent the organic materials to 2 different scientific labs for the radiocarbon dating. The first one that we get results from was the lab in Kiev, Ukraine. And they told us that the organic material is 24,800 years old plus minus 200 years. In other words, we are going back 25,000 years before the present. And this is still just the minimum age of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. It means that when this organic material get there, the structure was already there. So this is very hard scientific data. Of course, we would need 4 or 5 more radiocarbon analysis with more organic materials from the top or from the inside the pyramid to get the final conclusion. But in any case, we are going in the era which was much, much before what the mainstream science wants to admit. For the Egyptian pyramids, they are telling us they are 4,600 years old, the oldest being the Djoser's pyramid from the 3rd dynasty. For the Chinese, they are saying they are 2,500 years old, the oldest being the pyramids from the Emperor Qin. For the Peruvian, they are saying up to 3,000, for Mexican up to 3,000. But in reality, those pyramids are much older. But when we compare the official results of the pyramids worldwide and the Bosnian, obviously the Bosnians tend to be the oldest on the planet.
You've also shared with me that you found water that was indicated to be even 30,000 years old. Was that water from inside the pyramids or inside the tunnels?
What we are finding in the tunnels is in the walls where they build those tunnels. We are finding also organic material. In one of the walls, we found a piece of wood, and that wood was approximately 0.5 meter deep in the wall. So it was like in the vacuum between the sand and rocks and pebbles. Now, I have to say first that those tunnels are built in the material which is called conglomerate. Conglomerate, its existence is when you have flood, the water brings pebbles and rocks and sand, the water recedes, the rocks remain. When you have another flood, it brings more material. Another flood, more material. And so you have this accumulation of the rocks and pebbles, and those pieces, those layers, they are on the bottom 10, 20, 30 meters below the surface. Because of the pressure, they become compact, and they are called conglomerate. Well, in a piece of conglomerate, when the water was receding, they got the piece of wood trapped. So this wood is 32,000 years according to the radiocarbon labs in Germany, in Kiel lab, and in Poland, Silesian Institute for Technology in Gliwice. So if the conglomerate is 32,000 years old, everything below the conglomerate is even older. And what we are finding below the conglomerate are huge megalithic blocks that reach 8 tons in mass. When we analyze those blocks, it turns out that they were artificially made ceramic blocks. Now, who had technology to make ceramic blocks over 32,000 years ago? So now we are going so much deep that I know that for another couple of decades, the orthodox mainstream scientists will not be able to accept those information and those scientific research. But then, hey, in the science, who really care what you are ready to accept? We need to be open. We shouldn't be thinking that if we have the position being, for example, director of our archaeological institute, or dean at the faculty, or rector at the university, or president of Academy of Sciences, we should not think that if we have the positions, that the knowledge stops with us. If we think so, then we become obstacles for the progress. So we need to stay open-minded. But then the second thing, when in science you come to the wall, when you face it, if you want to find solutions, then you need to use some creativity. You need to call in help the spiritual science. And only when we combine the two, the material, which relies on physical senses and our scientific instruments, and spiritual science, which rely on spiritual senses, according to some authors, 25 spiritual senses, which we usually commonly call the sixth sense. So when we combine the two, then we should be able to understand the ancient monuments, such as pyramids.
You just mentioned the megaliths, which were under the wood. Are you talking about the megaliths in the Ravni tunnels or the KTK tunnels?
No, it's a Ravni tunnel. Namely, under the Valley of the Pyramids in Bosnia, we have a huge underground tunnel system with the chambers. It runs for tens of kilometers, and so far in the last 6 years, we clean approximately 100 to 200 meters a year. And then what we do, we secure the clean area with a wooden support. We bring electricity so people can get in. Now, in this particular Ravni tunnel, which is approximately 25 meters below the surface, we are finding those ceramic blocks, and that particular piece of organic material was very close to the block that we called megalith K1. Now, those ceramic blocks, what we found out, they are always positioned above the underground water streams. So the water moves, it generates the energy. And they place those ceramic blocks exactly above those potent energy points. So obviously they are manipulating with the energy as well.
Is the K1 just as the K2, which you have stated in the tunnels, an old altar?
Well, when we analyze the samples from K2 at the lab in Zagreb, Croatia, at the Institute for Atomic Physics, after they applied to very sophisticated scientific analysis, Röntgen diffraction analysis and the phase analysis, they told us it was definitely ceramic. If it is ceramic, it means it's made by intelligent hands, artificially put together. The same material we have in the case of other megaliths. So somebody was able to produce huge quantities of those artificially made ceramic materials. What we can, even without the instruments, feel is that whenever there is a ceramic block, there is always very strong and very powerful energy fields. Now, that field can be measured by our scientific instrument. What we have proven using georadar instrument was that in one of those ceramic blocks, we have some type of the oval object, most probably from the quartz crystal. So when we put all the elements together, you have underground water stream, water moves, it generates the energy. That energy is hitting the quartz crystal inside the ceramic block. It starts working. It is surrounded by ceramic. The ceramic vibrates, and the vibration generates electromagnetic field, which can be measured by our scientific instrument. You bring the oscilloscope and you can measure the frequency of 28 kilohertz. Now this frequency does not come seldomly in nature. You have to have technology to produce it. So it seems that what we have in front of our eyes is the ancient technology. So much different than ours, but still technology. The next thing, the tunnel system is filled with the pieces of quartz crystal. When electromagnetic fields hit the quartz crystal, then we have something which is called piezoelectrical effect. The engineers know that the piezoelectrical effect generates the ultrasound. Now the ultrasound is different energy phenomenon. The ultrasound is mechanical vibration. Everything in nature vibrates. Our mother planet vibrates. We, our human bodies, we vibrate also. Now, we measured this vibration, the ultrasound. The result was the range from 28 kilohertz to 33 kilohertz. Even though we cannot hear the ultrasound, we can measure it, and we know that the ultrasound does good to our body because it kills viruses and bacteria and keep our healthy body cells safe. So somebody was creating surroundings to have a very pleasant and secure area for the body and to have the healing aspects also. So this is what we can measure by using our instruments. How many other energy phenomena? It's hard to say. And I personally believe that we still don't have instruments to measure all the energy phenomena in the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids.
But does this then explain why most of the people find the Rounding tunnels even more mysterious and more powerful than the pyramids itself?
Well, since the Ramet tunnel is a vast network of tunnels, right now we have 840 meters which are open. I mean, it's big. At the beginning, the first year, 50 meters, then 150, couple of hundred, but deeper we go, we are finding that the results are more exciting. It seems that the concentration of negative ions, which is another element. The negative ions, as we know, they clean our blood and our body from microbes also. That concentration is getting so high that at one point in underground chamber it is 200 times higher than what we have in our offices or homes in big cities. So somebody was building a huge healing facility underground. And deeper we go, it seems that the vibratory level of the tunnels is getting higher. So we can immediately feel benefits while being in the tunnels. When it comes to the pyramid, it's a little bit different. The pyramid, 99% is completely covered by soil and vegetation. We are slowly opening some sections. We can expose the concrete blocks. But I think it will be some more time until we found the most important places on the pyramid surface and while we found the entrances to the pyramid itself.
Did you already discover tunnels within the pyramids?
Well, we have done 4 different analyses using geophysicists from Germany, Russia, Serbia, and Austria. They were using their georadar instruments. Unfortunately, commercially available georadars can penetrate the surface only up to 18 meters. But even with those instruments, we were able to find the first level of inner passageways. Now, some other friends of the project, like Klaus Dona, with the help of their friends physicists, they think that there is not 1 but 7 different levels of inner passageways and chambers, and they are on different depths from 5 to 350 meters. During this summer, we were trying to get into one of the tunnels, which is rather close to the surface, but we experienced very hard time with the concrete blocks, which are so hard that our drilling equipment could not do a dent to the hardest and most superior concrete blocks.
Everybody knows about the King's Chamber in Khafru's pyramid. Do you expect that the Pyramid of the Sun and the Moon have similar chambers?
The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is, when it comes to volume, 3 times bigger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. It is much older. So I believe that the idea when they built it was different than the Great Pyramid of Egypt, even though both of them are probably built to manipulate the energies, to amplify the natural energy sources, and to serve as the emitters and the receivers of energy. When it comes to the inner structure, I do believe that there are several entrances. Some of them are probably false entrances. But much important than that is the complete structure, which is probably on different levels, and each level moved a little bit, forming the spiral. When you have the spiral, and when you have the energy flowing through the spiral, then you have a base for so-called non-Hertzian, Teslas, or scalar waves. And now we are getting to the most important thing, the pyramid being used as the energy machines. What we have proven so far by 4 independent teams of physicists, electrical engineers, and anthropologists from Zagreb, Croatia, Belgrade, Serbia, then Finland, and finally Trieste, Italy, is that we have that electromagnetic field on the top of the Sun pyramid, the ultrasound also as some type of the ultrasound beam on the top of the pyramid of the Sun. In order to generate those fields that's been continuous for thousands of years, you have to have huge resources, and obviously such a vast tunnel system helped the pyramid to get this energy. So the pyramid really feeds off the tunnels, and even more than that. The team of the physicists did an experiment in April of 2012. The results of the experiments were analyzed in Vienna, Zagreb, and Belgrade. The conclusion is that the main source for the pyramid is 2,440 meters below the ground with a shift of 410 meters, and that source is actually a huge iron plate. The question is whether this iron plate was there naturally, and how did the pyramid builders know about the iron plate being 2.5 kilometers below the ground level? Or did the pyramid builder install somehow this huge iron plate at such depth? In any case, it tells us that they were very advanced. So now when you have this iron plate emitting the energy, when you have the underground tunnels creating electromagnetic fields, when you have underground water streams getting electrical current, when you are having all those water accumulation generating more negative ions, everything coming to the pyramid, all these sources of energy, plus you have magnetic energy around our planet produced by core in the planet, which is magma. So the pyramid is sucking several types of energies, amplifying them, focusing them, and this energy. So we have company here.
We have company. Excuse me.
That's fine. So this energy is going through the very top of the pyramid of the Sun. So far we have measured ultrasound, infrasound, electromagnetic fields, but I'm sure that we have several more types of energies, but we simply don't have instruments to measure them. Most probably, one of the energy should be orgone, or what's called chi, or life energy. And there's been talk about this type of energy for thousands of years, so we need to find a way how to measure it as well.
Yes, because those experiments haven't been done yet?
As a matter of fact, the Bosnian Pyramid Project has been doing the pioneering steps in the pyramid science. In Egypt, the people who are running their antiquities and Egyptologists do not let any other scientists besides Egyptologists and archaeologists to prove that the pyramids are anything else but the tombs for the pharaohs. At the late 1960s, when the Japanese were trying to find passageways in Kefrens, the second biggest pyramid, using their georadar and geophysical instruments. They realized that every 10 minutes the energy field of the pyramid changes. They were so shocked. Obviously the pyramid was an energy machine. But then Egyptologists threw them out of the country and told them, you are here to find the tombs or mummies, not the different energy anomalies. So after that, people like physicists, they were not really allowed to go in there. The same thing in China and Mexico. Archaeologists are simply not interested in this phenomena because nobody was teaching them in schools about them, and poor them. They should realize that only with the knowledge of the physicists and electrical engineers we can answer the question, what was the real purpose of the pyramids?
It's about time that the history books are being rewritten, right?
Exactly.
Dr. Osmanagich, when we visited Visico last month, you brought us to the Vratnica tumulus. Why is it called the King's Chamber?
Well, I don't call it that, but you have to realize with so many people coming there, people are giving different names. What we have officially is that we have a tumulus there. In archaeology, tumulus is an artificial hill in a conical shape, and that's what we have there. The shape is conical, and we have layers of concrete blocks, clay, sandstone blocks, clay, concrete, and so on, all the way to the top. And they are like concentric circles, getting smaller and smaller. Our friend Dr. Harry Oldfield brought his PIP camera with which he can film what he called bioenergy fields, which are not visible to the naked human eye. And when he was filming the Vratnica tumulus, he was able to see that a huge energy ring, the energy in the shape of the ring, is coming from underground, getting inside the Vratnica tumulus. And since you have these concentric layers of concrete blocks and sandstone blocks and so on, this energy is getting more focused, and then as a very small beam is going through the top of the structure. So I would say that even in this little village of Vratnica, which is part of the Visoko municipality, we have additional structures that did belong to the pyramid complex. The ancients knew that the shapes are very important. The two most powerful shapes in the nature are the shape of the pyramid and the conical shape. And the third one is the spherical shape. And they all have to do with the energy.
In Bosnia there are also a lot of stone spheres found. What is their relationship? Is there a relationship between the pyramids, the tumulus, and these spheres?
Yes. The stone sphere phenomenon can be found all over the planet. The western Mexico, then southern Costa Rica, the Dickes River, the Easter Island, they have also volcanic stone spheres, and there are some made from sandstone on the New Zealand's beaches, offshore, and finally we have them in 20 different locations in Bosnia. Now, in Bosnia they are built from three different materials. Actually, the stone spheres in Bosnia are coming in the volcanic stone, which was shaped, and the granite, which was also shaped, and sandstone as the base for the stone spheres, and those stone spheres were actually, the material was melted, the additives to enhance the properties of the stone spheres were added, they were poured in molds, and then when they come dry, they became solid. So, the new science called biogeometry are proving that those three shapes are the most powerful when it comes to the energy: the pyramid, the conical shape, the spheres, and if we can call the big pyramids the big power plants, or the big energy machines, or the big energy emitters and receivers, then the stone spheres we can call the small power plants.
You say they were poured into molds. Have any of these molds been found?
No, we have not found the molds, and as a matter of fact, most of the stone spheres we are not finding at the original place. And there is a place in Bosnia where we like to take our visitors and friends and researchers, and you are one of them, and we take them to this place where there are remnants of dozens of stone spheres. Some of them are still intact, most of them unfortunately were destroyed in the last century when people thought that there was a treasure in the middle of the stone spheres. But they are there, and when we analyze the materials from the stone spheres and the material from the natural stone in vicinity, we concluded that 7 elements were exactly the same, but the stone spheres had 2 more elements. One was calcium carbonate, which is always used as the binding agent, and the 9th is the element called mangan, and this element helps to get the hardness of the material.
Yes. What was the function then of these spheres? Do you already know?
Well, we can just speculate at this point, but I would say when they come in the big concentration, they can generate different types of energies. But unfortunately, we have not found any of those sites in function. Even those in Costa Rica, all the stones have been removed. The stone balls you can see in San Jose, which is the capital. You can see them in parks. You can see them in the private front yards or backyards. But the majority of them are still under the ground. The only active stone spheres I met anywhere on the planet is the one on Easter Island. Over there, the volcanic stone spheres is at the original position. When you put the compass on top of it, that compass needle moves left and right. It does not stop. It means that, energetically speaking, it is still very active.
Yes. And the ones in Bosnia aren't active anymore.
Exactly.
Okay. There's another interesting town. It's Gornje Bakići. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. But there is an obelisk. Is there also a relationship between the obelisk and the pyramid, the Valley of the Pyramids?
You know, Bosnia has never been systematically researched when it comes to archaeology. For decades, this country even did not have archaeological faculty. So we are finding pieces and bits here and there. The Valley of the Pyramids, thanks to our non-profit foundation, has been systematically researched for the last 6-7 years. And then people are coming to us, they are reporting different things, and what you just mentioned, this obelisk, which has both shapes present, the shape of the pyramid and the sphere, is probably a very important marker, and we still need to find the connection between the pyramid, stone spheres, and this obelisk. Who knows how many more obelisks? We are finding a lot of stone blocks, which are called in this country stečak, and the mainstream scientists assigned stečak to the medieval times, 700-800 years ago. However, some of those stečaks are huge stone blocks, perfectly shaped in different shapes. Some of them they are like boxes during the old, ancient Sumerian times. Some of them are perfect plates with no inscriptions at all. 95% are simply clean, nothing on top of them. Most of them are found at the top of the mountains, I mean, we are talking about 65,000 of them that they've been registered, probably over 100,000 of them. Very advanced civilization obviously shaped them and moved them. To assign them to the primitive medieval times is a nonsense. But they don't know better. But we can go in the past and we can ask ourselves, who were the megalithic cultures in the area of Southern Europe? But then it's not only the Southern Europe. When you go to Karnak, France, you can see those huge monoliths. They are erected, 3,000, 6,000 of them. Then you move in a bigger parameter, and you realize it is 50,000 of them, from Poland to France, from Belgium and Holland down to Italy. 50,000 of them were erected at least 7,000–8,000 years ago. Some of them are reaching 75 tons. Obviously, it was not primitive, Neolithic or Paleolithic caveman who was moving a huge boulders, a huge monoliths, and then he would erect them in the ground. We are talking about advanced megalithic civilizations from distant past, and today who tries to investigate them, the mainstream science simply discredits them, and that's a shame. We have things to be proud of here in the Balkan region, in Europe, all over the world, and so many things to learn from the ancient builders.
Did UNESCO already start their research in Bosnia?
In 2006, at the beginning of our project, when the Bosnian president came to the site, he was so impressed that he asked me, "What do you want from us? How can we help you?" I told him, "Bring me UNESCO to Visoko." And at that time, the Bosnian president did talk to the Secretary General Matsura of UNESCO. And Matsura said, "Yes, I heard about this project and I'm going to send you a commission of our archaeologists." When he said that publicly, then the group of archaeologists, geologists, anthropologists from UK and US signed a petition to UNESCO asking them not to send anyone. Well, if we were not afraid of what they're going to find out, what was their problem? And under the pressure of those archaeologists and historians who were claiming there is nothing in Bosnia, there are no pyramids, it's all big hoax, UNESCO never sent anyone. In 2008, I had a meeting and UNESCO asked me not to publicly say anything about this meeting. And I met with the lady who runs European affairs, and I met with the woman who is their chief archaeologist. She was from Greece. And I did the presentation. This archaeologist, she was so interested, she wanted to come to Bosnia immediately, but her boss said, "No, we will wait and see." So it seems that a lot of fear in international institutions, in academia, and unfortunately our society is based on fear. People fear everything, and that's not right. When you come to our Bosnian pyramid site, you can see volunteers from all over the world with a smile on their faces. You can see the visitors, guests, tourists, media. People are interacting freely, and that's the future of science. No secrets, no selection of information, no fear that you're going to say something wrong. This project, we don't try to convince anyone in anything. We just give them the scientific information and we let them to make their conclusions while they are visiting and using all the physical senses and spiritual. So, it's up to all of us because this project and this discovery does not belong to one little foundation or even to one little country. It is the world's cultural heritage.
The hidden history, as you have called your last conference, didn't you?
Exactly, and we don't want this history to be hidden anymore. So we invite people to come to Bosnia and tell us what they think, inform us about their research and their results. And they do come. People like Klaus Dona of Austria, Philip Coppens. Last year we had David Hatcher-Childress. We had many more other international scientists, but also majority of the scientists who do come at our conferences are the people who investigate the Bosnian pyramids. Energy phenomena, electromagnetic, ultrasound, anthropological aspects, archaeological aspects, aura, and other things. And I'm very proud of it that I run truly interdisciplinary scientific project, which is more open than any other in the world.
We are getting close to the 21st of December of 2012. Cygnus is a planet on which all the ancient cultures have built their structures in an alignment with this planet. Cygnus is aligning with the Valley of the Pyramids on the 21st of December. What does this mean to you?
December 21st is really becoming a symbol of the new time and the new era. And it doesn't really matter if the Mayan calendar, one of them, ends on December 21st, because there is still some discussion. John Major Jenkins, who first introduced the notion almost 20 years ago, when I talked to him, he said that he didn't really say that. But anyway, if it is December 21st, or it already passed that date, or if it's going to come within 10 or 15 years, obviously the ancients had a way to get such a vast astronomical knowledge. If they knew about this cycle, which lasts 25,920 years, the cycle during which our solar system makes a circle within our galaxy, Milky Way, which Mayans called Hunab Ku. Obviously, there is much more to the history than what they tell us. When it comes to the planets, the ideas from Robert Boaz and the others that the three pyramids in Egypt aligns with the three stars of the Orion belt, it seems that it is not really 100% valid, because two pyramids do match two biggest stars in Orion belt, but the third star, the white dwarfs, does not really match the third, the smallest, the Mycerian pyramid. Now, how much significant in what we built on the face of the planet in the past, with what we can see on the night sky, I think there is some significance, but not major. The major thing for the pyramids was to be very powerful, multi-complex energy machines with the huge underground tunnel networks. The secondary was probably benefits to the bodies of the builders, because it would benefit them in a way that they would prepare their bodies, they would heal their bodies, they would raise the immune system. So these are the things that are always important. You need energy for everything. Today we build hydro, thermal, and nuclear power plants. In the past, they were building the pyramids, the tumulus. They were making the concentration of the stone spheres. So they were getting huge quantities of energies. Plus, one of the energy aspects was the one that would heal our bodies, that would give us the protection and immunity. And these are the things that were always important for us. And finally, when it comes to the energy beings produced by the pyramids, we can ask ourselves, what was the purpose of the energy beam which goes up to the sky, to our solar system, or maybe beyond? It is possible that they used the energy beam for the communication. Or if we are to speculate some more, they could be used for the transportation or some form of the teleportation. Or if we add the healing aspects, the heating aspects, the adjustment of the climate, and finally the military purpose, because there are always some who think that they can take advantage of huge quantities of energies. It's up to us to use the knowledge that we are acquiring from the pyramid complex in Bosnia in a very wise and a peaceful way.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Which current excavations or experiments are taking place in the valley at this moment?
In 2012, the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids was the most active archaeological site in the world. 500 volunteers from 52 countries, from 6 continents, dozens of experts from different fields, archaeologists mostly, but also anthropologists, geologists, geodesists, geophysicists, and the others were in Visoko. This year we were working on all 5 structures, the Sun, Moon, Dragon, Earth and Love. We are finding more areas with the concrete blocks. We are finding traces of Neolithic settlements. We are finding more organic materials, giving us a minimum age of the pyramids. We were cleaning more and more tunnels. This year, almost 200 meters. So even though there is economic crisis and recession, even though Bosnia is one of the poorest European countries, even though we don't have almost no help from the government institutions, we manage, with the help of a lot of volunteers who come with a great enthusiasm and the love for the research in this particular project, and even for this country, because they do become our ambassadors all over the world. So we manage to move on, to get more discoveries, and we plan to organize our scientific conferences every year with the people who do their testing and lab analysis and radiocarbon datings and energy measurements. So we are going to keep this project as the most exciting project in archaeology field today.
And you do that in one big vibe of oneness there in Visoko. It's really amazing when you walk around the town. You've mentioned it already. People are smiling. There's a vibe of oneness. People are drawn to the village from all over the country, from all continents. I really wish you all a lot of success with all your research, Dr. Osmanagich. And I want to ask you, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I invite them to become informed about this project. The best way through our official website, which is www.bosnianpyramidofthesun.com. bosnianpyramidofthesun.com. We have daily news with the experts and impressions of tourists, and we have also some other pyramid news all over the world. And even though this is the ancient knowledge, it can help us to build a better future for all of us.
Yes, and I would also like to share with our listeners that you are coming to Holland. How exciting, because on the 7th of November you are doing another lecture called Pyramids of the World and the Lost Pyramids of Bosnia. The location is Huis de Beurs. Starting from 7:30 till 10:30. The address is AA Kerkhof nummer 4, 9711 JB in Groningen. Entry fee €10 per person, and the lecture will be in English. If any of our listeners want to make reservations, then please send an email to info@oneheart.nu. or just buy your tickets at Orongo. Then I want to really thank you from the heart for your time and your effort. I wish you and your foundation all the luck and all the resources which you need to continue this great job you are doing for all of humanity, Dr. Osmanagich. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jolanda, and thank you to be so supportive in many ways.
Thank you. Then I just want to share one last thing. If anybody wants to travel along with us to Bosnia, to meet Dr. Semir in person, to see Visico with their own eyes. In May 2013, Projects of Light is organizing a pilgrimage to the heart of Bosnia. During this sacred journey from the 20th till the 21st of May, we will visit the Valley of the Pyramids, meet Dr. Semir, travel to many of the mentioned power spots. So if each of you get the chance to explore the area yourself, if you want to join, send an email to postmaster@projectsoflight.nl and we will send you the itinerary and registration form. Thank you all for listening. Have a great evening, and I hope to meet you in the place between your heart and mine. Dr. Semir, hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.